And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Natural resource management deals with managing the way in which people and natural landscapes interact. It brings together natural heritage management, land use planning, water management, biodiversity conservation, and future sustainability of industries like agriculture, mining, tourism, fisheries, and forestry. It recognizes that people and their livelihoods rely on the health and productivity of our landscapes and their actions as steward of the land. On today's Open Connection, we open our archives to bring you this story from 1991.
British Columbia's land base is covered by provincial forests. Maximizing the social, economic, and environmental benefits of these publicly owned lands is a difficult task, one that the Chief Steward, the BC Forest Service, has accepted. But that assignment cannot and will not be completed without the help of the forest's biggest benefactors, the public. To that end, the Ministry of Forest is involved in integrated resource management.
A process where we understand what resources are in an area and bring them together into a plan that ensures that the resource values are protected.
You've been busy in the Kalem district talking to people, and you're going to continue to talk to the public. I would take it that is very, very important to your aspect of integrated resource management.
Yes, getting the public views of forest management and how other resources should be managed is really important in order that we can get a forest management plan that the public agree to.
When you talk to the public about integrated resource management and some of the things they're concerned about, what do you expect to hear from the public in this particular area? What are their concerns going to be from what you see?
In this particular area, the economy of the area is obviously very strongly relying on the forest sector. But what we've heard so far is that sports fishing values in that particular planning area are really significant. Recreational use in the area is really important, and the wildlife values are important. So I think what we're trying to understand is how forestry and managing these other resources can fit together.
Actually, it's been really positive. Everybody's sort of interested in this. They almost view it as a new public involvement process where they, hey, wait a minute, they're asking us for our input before they make a plan. And you know, it's sometimes you wonder when you go into these meetings, what is it going to be like? Are we going to be carrying the baggage from all the years past, and is it just going to be a grill session? But from my side of it, I think it's been really positive that everybody really cares about what they're saying. Like, they care about this area, and that's the feelings that come out, and that's really refreshing to know that you're doing something that people really care about.
The purpose of the forum on integrated resource management is for the Forest Service to get an accepted platform to work on, and as well understand a variance of opinion.
I think the public's view of forestry is a snapshot often. They see an area and they form some impressions of what was standing there before logging or how other resources are impacted. And you know, often you know, we feel that we can manage the area better, and what they see is one aspect of it. I think that we've got areas of forestry that are very good, very well managed. We've got some areas where we'd like to improve, and so getting views on how it could be improved is important.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. The name is derived from the Coast Tsimshian language word lakaus, freshwater mussel, for the mollusk that is found on the bottom of both Lake Owls Lake and Lake Owls River. Prior to Lake Owls Lake becoming a provincial park, Fishery Creek, which runs throughout the park, was the site of a sockeye salmon fishery operated by the Canadian government between 1919 and 1936. Lake Owls Lake Provincial Park was established in 1956. Let us return to the archives as they discuss the Kalem Forest District.
The Kalem Forest District is huge, and resource management in the long haul is a monumental chore. Downey admits that the Forestry Service must focus their efforts to get the job done. Presently, that focus has been pinpointed on the Thunderbird area, a place as bountiful and diverse as any in the entire province.
This being Terrace proper and the Skeena River. And so we've taken everything south of the Skeena River, and we use this boundary at Highway 37 to the east. And we include Lake Owls Lake and Lake Owls River. And then we just go down just to the south of Lake Owls Lake. So we're including all this sort of wetland area down here that's already previously been identified as a wildlife management area. And so we're including something that's been done already down here. And what we wanted to do is basically focus in on this Lake Owls River and lake as the main issue. And then it just made sense to make this the boundary.
There's a great cross-section of types of land, even in this small particular area, isn't there?
Yeah, this is, I can't imagine anywhere that it's more a variety in types of tenure and ownership, private and Crown, parks. Yeah, the whole gamut is
If you had to pick an area for an example for others, maybe this is ideal in the sense that you're touching base on so many geographical types and forms.
Yeah, you know, you can say that it's this is the most productive river system probably in the Northwest, and then you could make an argument for of all of British Columbia, this little stretch in here. This lake is probably the highest recreational use in the Northwest, and it's got everything, and this is probably one of the most productive growing sites, some of the most productive in all of British Columbia.
There's not a lot of secrets when it comes to the Thunderbird area. Many people, not just those in forestry, understand the area like the back of their hand. For that reason alone, preserving its natural splendor is critical.
What's interesting about this type of plan, this Thunderbird plan, is that it gives an opportunity for people to actually know exactly what they're talking about. It's a given area that a lot of them have walked many, many times, and they've grew up and they've seen it over the years, and they know that area. So when they talk about things that are important to them, it's not just on a philosophical level. They can point to the exact spot in the river that they have some concerns about.
One also must remember, while the general public has its perception of what is happening or should be done to a particular area, special interest groups also franchise a keen interest. Those groups, many pertaining to the preservation of environment and natural habitat, have been approached for their feelings and solutions as well.
We contacted a total of 55 different groups, and what we did is we just sat down and started scratching our heads and said, who's interested in the Thunderbird area? Who has operations out there as far as trapping, or who lives out there as far as a residents association? The airport people are interested in what goes on in the Thunderbird area. And so we just, we contacted as many of those. We sent out 55 different letters to those people. And then we picked some of the more obvious ones that actually meet on a regular basis, and we called them up and said, hey, would you like to get together and discuss what your concerns are in this area? So the Steelhead Society has a regular meeting, so we got together with these people. And so it was just a informal meeting that we came to their place or they came here or whatever.
The public forums and meetings on areas such as the Thunderbird will continue until questions and concerns are addressed. A plan of action is being adopted, and it has in fact already started.
Well, I think we started already. We were meeting with public interest groups in the fall, and from what we've heard, we've developed our Thunderbird planning project, but we're also getting information that applies to how public see forest management in the complete Kalem Forest District, and I think that's really important because we technically include resources in our plans, but the way the public see forestry is not necessarily the way we see forestry, and I think we're learning.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. It is true that many sports fans take their sports very seriously, but to watch sports is to watch people play the game. It is a distraction from the real world. It's meant to be entertaining, it's meant to be a fun break. That is why it's so difficult to mix cultural and political messages with sports. Let us return to the archives to bring you this story where sports and politics do mix.
In tomorrow's 1 o'clock matchup, since they have beaten both other squads already. Defending champs Kincolith Masters continue to roll. They upped their unbeaten string to 8 games going back to last year's result. They will meet Metlakatla, Alaska, Fort St. James, or Skidegate in tomorrow's 2:30 final. 4 teams remain alive in the intermediate division. Ahousaht and Intertribal meet on the top half of the bracket. Masset, Metlakatla, Alaska are still alive in the losers bracket. Bella Bella and Heidelberg meet at 6 tonight to determine who the first finalist will be in the seniors draw. The loser will have to fend off the Trojans, Kitimat, and Masset to advance to the final
There's
game.
an old saying which says sports and politics don't mix. However, when the all-native tournament arrived in Prince Rupert last week, the people responsible for negotiating the Native Union Treaty had no hesitation about where they would sign the document. Each year, hundreds of basketball players, their coaches and families travel to Prince Rupert for the all-native tournament. It's a frantic week of people playing hoops and enjoying the camaraderie of post-game activities. Gerald Amos is from the Haisla Tribal Council and is a veteran of a number of all-native tournaments. He says the spirit of cooperation evident in the ANT is the very thing which is wanted from the Native Union Treaty.
In the early days of the tournament, the spirit of it was competition, but there was a lot of friendship. I've personally played a fair number of years in this tournament. I've got a lot of friends that I've retained up to today. So I think the tournament as a backdrop to the signing was very much the intent of the whole process.
While basketball was the reason so many people were on hand at the Civic Center, it was the signing ceremony which was the highlight of the first day of activity. It was a celebration of the culture of the Northwest First Nations and featured traditional dress, song, dance, and food. Miles Richardson of the Haida Nation says it recognized the similarities the First Nations of the Northwest have in common.
It was quite an historic and quite a solemn moment for the nations, the ancient nations of in this part of the world, who have deeply rooted traditions that have a lot of similarities, to be recognizing that we have huge challenges in front of us, and that if we are going to meet and overcome those challenges, that we have to be of one heart and work together on what we believe in common.
In a previous era, the Native Union Treaty could have been described as a peace treaty. However, in years past, it would have been a treaty between warring nations. Today, the First Nations are dealing with a much more complex situation, that being federal and provincial governments along with third parties who are interested in being involved in the native land claim process. The Native Union Treaty is now a symbol of solidarity between the 6 nations and a signal they are unified in their cause. It was for those reasons that the peace song, Tawagani, seemed so appropriate. There were other reminders of the symbolic nature of the treaty. A ceremony of peace was performed. A handful of down is blown in each of the 4 directions. Besides the obvious symbolic purpose of the signing ceremony, there was a more practical purpose. The treaty outlines a number of broad principles that the First Nations will follow and can build on when dealing with each other in the future. Bob Hill of the Tsimshian Tribal Council reads out the first 3 principles of the treaty.
We shall continue to practice our own tribal political system and laws, and we intend these separate jurisdictions to continue. 2, we shall continue to express our sovereignty as nations. 3, we shall assist each other to reaffirm our continuing hereditary title and give expressions to our rights.
Other more specific principles involved dealt with land claims, tribal boundaries, wildlife and its habitat, as well as mineral and natural resources on Aboriginal land. While the treaty was being read to the signatories, delegates from the Nisga'a, Tsimshian, Haida, Haisla, Gitxsan, Wet'suwet'en, and Gittenow signed the document. Once everything was signed, it was time for speech-making. Representatives from each nation was handed the speaking stick and given a chance to address their fellow signatories. Peter Muldoe spoke for the Gitxsan.
The last 100 years, a lot of our people waiting for this moment, this day. I myself, the last 30 years, I've been speaking about getting together and fight as one people. Now it finally comes through, and I'm glad.
Once the signing ceremony was over, the crowd was able to retire and enjoy an intertribal feast. It was also a time to reflect on the ceremony and the meaning of the treaty. Art Starrett is the vice chief of the Tsimshian Tribal Council, who also played host to the event. For him, the signing had a special significance.
It was a fantastic ceremony, powerful, and what was really important about it is that all the people that were party to that ceremony were somehow connected to the Tsimshian. They're all our brothers, and we have relations amongst all of them, and we felt that it was a nice signing between our family to agree to support one another and to continue to work together for common goals.
The other real value I guess we're getting out of tonight is the strengthening of our own identities. Those of us, if we had any questions about what our values were, what our identities were, tonight as we saw the other tribal nations stand up with us, certainly gives you a feeling of strength and togetherness, as most of the speakers were saying tonight.
The all-native tournament is history. Players are at home savoring the memories of another week of basketball. Meanwhile, the 6 tribal councils are back on their land.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
River tubing is an ultimate summer activity. There's something inside each of us that craves navigating a winding river under a hot sun, acting like we were children again. It is also one of the best ways to experience nature and the surrounding wildlife. In this final segment of Open Connection, we'll return to archives to discover what happens when you add a helicopter ride to the mix.
An opportunity to go up in a helicopter and view the Ixchamzix River Valley doesn't come along very often. At least, it didn't used to. But that was before North Coast heli rafting spread its wings. Halfway between Terrace and Prince Rupert is the departure point. A helicopter picks you up and takes you on a scenic 10 to 12 minute ride to the top of the river. Waiting there is a raft and life jackets for 4 people. How long you take to make it back down to the bottom is up to you.
Yeah, you can go up in the morning and you can stay up all day. You can have a picnic and we're asking people to be down by between 8 and 9 at night. We're asking to be back, but you can go out at 8 o'clock in the morning and spend the whole day up here.
The Exchamsix River Valley is one of the only completely untouched river valleys left in the province. It's as lush and green as the most beautiful of golf courses, and there's as much to see on a quiet float down it as in a provincial park.
This valley is abundant with wildlife, and coming down by rafts, you're not making a lot of noise, so chances of seeing wildlife are really, really good.
What are you most likely to see?
Bears, the odd moose, wolves, beaver, marten, eagles.
Although the transportation supplied is Achilles rafts, commonly used for whitewater rafting, the Exchamsix is anything but a fast-paced river. Other than having to steer yourself through some twists and turns every now and again, it takes absolutely no skill.
Anybody can get into one of our rafts and come down the river and subject themselves to no danger.
Keeping the surroundings as beautiful as when they found them is important to the owners of the heli rafting company. They feel, environmentally speaking, they have all of the problems taken care of.
We feel we'll have zero impact on the environment. Zero. We're not putting motors in the water. Hopefully people bring their garbage out with them. We'll provide garbage bags for them.
Garbage bags won't be the only thing in the boat. In case there is some sort of an emergency, a radio will be supplied. Rafters can get in touch with someone stationed at the bottom of the river and, if necessary, have them come for help. Although the fishing in the Exchamsix River is excellent, the heli rafting company isn't promoting it. They don't want to be compared to fish guiding companies. But they do say anyone that wants to bring a rod is more than welcome.
If they want to take your fishing rod, yeah. You're totally legal to take your fishing rod up and fish, eh? But we are asking for catch and release.
There's no other company in the province like North Coast Heli Rafting. The owners feel there's one important thing which makes them unique.
Well, it's the mode of transportation. It's a helicopter ride. I mean, people love getting into a helicopter. And we're giving you a helicopter ride that's a fair, extensive ride. It's 10 to 12 minutes in duration. And you get to see the Skeena Valley, and you get to see the scenery coming up. And we're combining that with a drift on the river that lasts 4 to 5 hours coming down. So we think the two together should be quite appealing to people.
What appeals to people is hard to judge. This new company is just getting its feet wet, so to speak, and this summer will be the difference between sink or swim. They do, however, have some words to encourage people who may be interested in giving the river a run.
I'd say you'd have probably one of the best days in your life. And if you like photography, if you like wildlife, and you like the outdoors, I think we cover it all.
North Coast Heli Rafting is based out of Prince Rupert. They'll be running the trips until about mid-September. Each run is $99 a person.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind to his heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.